Hello everyone, we are CMS and we present you Placement Tales. As everyone knows, college placements is a very critical time for students as it sets the tone for the inception of their career. It is a phase which is filled with pressure and anxiety. Hence, we have for you Placement Tales, which could help you become familiar with the process of college placement. We have with us today from the PES design batch of 24 who have been placed recently and will walk us through their whole placement experience and clarify our queries. We are glad to have you. We'll start we'll start up with Prarthana Tejasvi.
Hi everyone, I'm Prarthana. I'm a fourth year product design student and I got placed in Accenture for the role of behavioral design analyst. This falls into the category of UX research. I don't really have to focus on designing the UI, I have to deal with the user interaction more and analyzing user patterns and behaviors. And ultimately, anything that can define the life cycle of the product with respect to the users. So obviously, it's a shift considering how my subject choice is product design. It's very different from the role that I applied for. But I will go into that process a little later. So to keep it brief, it's definitely possible. Those of you who are looking to shift from communication or from product design to a UI UX role, it's certainly possible. But you just have to learn a couple of skills in order to do that successfully. With regards to my CGPA, it is my SGPA for the seventh sem was 9.75. We haven't really been given the CGPA yet for the year, but it was a 9.54 for my third year, and I think it was important for my interview process at Accenture. The person who was interviewing me at that point of time did offhandedly mention that that I was a good student and I was doing well. So they do look at those kind of things. I would say give it, give yourself an opportunity to do well in college as well as your other work, your internships and things like that. And with respect to the internships that I did before I applied here at Accenture, I've completed two internships in IISc Bangalore. One was in my fourth semester where I worked with this lab called the I3D lab, where there was a PhD student who was designing games in the AR VR space for children who have cerebral palsy and other, motor and neural developmental disorders. I learned a lot when it came to that particular internships. I was just fresh into design, very young, fourth semester. And considering I had very little experience in things like UI, UX, or designing in the digital space, that was a very, very good opportunity for me. I learned a lot. And I think that was the first time I had any exposure towards design research as a subject itself. So I would definitely say invest in spending some time to find good internships. It's not just about having a lot of internships, the quality also matters. Big names tend to draw your interviewers' eyes to that particular part in your CV. They're always interested to know if it's IISc or if it's Apple or Samsung. In those kind of places, it really matters, I would say. So that was a plus point for me when I was interviewing for Accenture. And the second internship led to me publishing a paper with Procedia Computer Science Journal. That was a project I worked on with a professor who was a guest lecturer at PES. So that was very insightful in its own way. I had the chance to convert a project that I'd worked on in college for that particular paper. And speaking about research papers and projects, it's super useful to have something like that for your college applications as well. It just doesn't have to be placements or upgrading your CV. When you are looking to apply abroad for masters, especially roles that might cater to UX or any field in design that requires a lot of research, it's definitely a plus point. It works very well for your application. And I would say have a wide variety of skills and things that you've done in the time that you have in college, apart from just projects in university. learn a lot more than just what your field caters to. That definitely helped me. I didn't stick to product design as a whole. I did explore a lot when it came to UI UX. And there are a lot of advantages to doing that. Your projects that you submit itself, they're more holistic, and when you put that onto your portfolio, a physical solution that's also accompanied by a digital aspect to that. So it's a very holistic, well-rounded project. So give yourself an opportunity to do that. I do plan on studying abroad for my master's. I'm thinking of pursuing an MBA. There are also a lot of great courses on design strategic management. It's really up and coming. It bridges the gap between the business world and designers. So that there are courses available abroad. Also in Bangalore, you have NID. They have also started offering those courses. So that's something that I'm looking at, but I will most probably be going abroad. And all of these courses that require a business aspect to it or any entrepreneurial aspect to it, they do require a minimum work period of 2 to 3 years. So that's exactly why I did, apply here at Accenture. So the role that I applied for relied heavily on research. Behavioral design really requires you to look into the research side of things. So I catered my entire portfolio to that. I did have a lot of research processes that were taught to me in university, and also just things that I read from other research papers and other videos online. So a lot of research processes that led to the solution that I designed was something that I looked into. I made sure to have that in my portfolio. So really cater. It really depends on where you're applying and what role you're applying for. So make sure you cater your portfolio to that. Um, I had about 2 projects, but I would honestly recommend 3. But yeah, I had 2 projects when I did show them my portfolio at Accenture. So the process went like this. We weren't really given a chance to prepare for anything. It was more of an on-spot test kind of thing. The very first round required us to send in our resumes or our CVs, and based on that, there was shortlisting. And I think there were around 47 students after shortlisting. I'm unaware. I think it was 80 before shortlisting. Right after the CV round, we had one where we sent in our portfolios. They said that they wouldn't really shortlist based on the portfolio, that they would give us a chance for the test, but they did end up cutting off a few students there. So that was round 2. Post that, we had a test that was given to us based on the role that we chose for. We were given options for behavioral design, there was service design, there was a separate role for UX research, then UI UX. So there were a lot of options that were given, and that was really interesting to see how an IT services company, had so many design aspects to it. Yeah, so based on the role that you picked, we were given tests, on the spot tests, and it's a lot like the projects that you work on in college. There was one where we had to streamline the process of patients who were registering at hospitals. That was one. And this was specific to behavioral design, by the way. And the other one was somebody trying to find rooms, find rooms and roommates in another city that they're trying to live in. So I picked that, and very similar process. They asked for empathy mapping, user persona, user journey, those kind of things. Very similar to what you've learned in college. And we had to submit that. No shortlisting was done after this. We were all invited to interview in person. A lot of professionals from Accenture, the design department there, came and spoke to us. They told us what each role catered to. And once that aspect was done, it was a really long wait for a lot of us to get to that interview room and then speak to the people who were interviewing us there. There were 2 rounds in the interview process as well. The very first round was a technical round where we had to present our portfolios and also the tests that we did, that they asked us to. So with the kind of questions that we were asked were very project specific questions. They ask you about your process, and if they see things that aren't mentioned but should have been mentioned, they will ask you about that. All of this would come in the technical round. General things like why did you pick empathy mapping over user journey mapping? What was your reasoning? So those kind of things you should be prepared for. Very project specific questions, your processes. So be very aware of how you present that. Have a lot of infographics more than just text. It's very important to do that because it's just more appealing to the person who's seeing. Nobody has the time to read a lot of text. I'm sure a lot of you have already prepared your portfolios. So yeah, that was the technical round, and then the second round was with the design department head, where she kind of just wanted to know how we were as people, how we would add to the team in Accenture, our characteristics. She asked me how I fit into the team. Do I lead people or do I, like following people? How I as a person when it comes to subordinate people. If there's somebody who's senior to me, how would I interact with them? So those kind of questions is probably a little hard to prepare for, but I would say anticipate those kind of things. A lot of questions about yourselves and how you fit into the team. It's really, really important, as to how you project yourself. You must definitely be amiable, even though the opposite person might not give you an opportunity to be, because they really see how you fit in, how you sit, how you speak, those kind of things. And you might have a great portfolio, but you should be able to talk about it very well, about your projects. So include anecdotes that led to any research part, or what led you to design it in that sense, what inspired you. Those kind of things are really important. You must present yourself and speak very well in interviews, I would say. Overall, my experience with the interviews was pretty good. I was confident of how it went. And the results come out super quick. So honestly, that anxiety part is quelled. You do not have to wait for a very long time to find out if you made it or you didn't. We found out the next day, I believe. So that was really quick. And we haven't really heard from them after that, but we've been asked to expect our offer letters in July. So that's about it. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for being so informative, Pratna. Next up, we have Smriti Ramesh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Smriti Ramesh, and I'm in my fourth year of communication design. And currently, I am interning at a marketing agency called OY Media Solutions. And I've been hired as a graphic design intern. And I have also been placed in Accenture along with Prarthana, but for a very different role. My role here is creative designer. So, I mean, I'm doing the same thing like I've opted for. Being a communication designer, I do this, how you design campaigns or do brandings, because that's our basic subject. And that's the same thing I'll be doing in Accenture. And I think we'll get to it later in the meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Smriti. Next, we have Samarth RS.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Samarth. I'm a multidisciplinary designer, mostly handling digital experiences. I've mostly worked with Y Combinator back companies, a couple of them. Currently working with one as well. It's called Unlock Solutions, and they're building a plugin for Java types. It's a weird niche that you wouldn't have expected. We'll get to that detail later. Um, my placements, that story has mostly been through networking. Again, that detail is something I'd like to get into later. Also, I'm a musician, vocalist and a guitarist. I've been in a band with Prakriti, and I make covers with Pranav now and then. That's been about it. And I'm glad we're having this conversation this weekend.
Thank you. Prakriti Rajendra, you can go on and introduce.
Yes, hi. I am Prakriti Rajendra. I am again currently in my fourth year, 8th semester. So I have been placed at Adobe, but I am currently working at Param.network, which is a blockchain-based workflow platform, which is mainly focuses on B2B collaboration, business-to-business collaboration. And just to go back a little, before this, I had done a freelancing internship, not an internship, like it's freelancing. So it kind of got me into the dynamics of how freelancing works, because as a junior designer and just getting out of college, not even out of college yet. So that was interesting. And before that, I was lucky enough to be selected, shortlisted for my Adobe summer internship, uh, which was a roller coaster ride for me personally, because when they had asked us for our, we had a quiz to give, and the quiz they had asked us that they had told us that it would be MCQs, and it was completely different. It was very personal, like what made you a designer, why are you interested in creativity, like what is your creative backstory and things like that. And it was very intriguing, and I didn't think I would get in, but later found out from my manager that he really liked my answers which were pretty long. So for me, I actually happened to have skipped the interview part of it, so because of some miscalculation on their end. But later found out that I got in, and it was pretty interesting, and it was pretty nice because you got to learn a lot. And we would so along with me there were other two people who got selected, and we are the only 3 interns in the entire India for ACS UX, and we are the first interns. So even the team didn't know what to do with us, or it was very new experience for everyone actually. And it was very interesting because the people at Adobe are really friendly, and everyone is always open to answering questions and everything. So it was a really nice experience. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And on the co-curricular side, I play basketball. I have represented college on many intercollegiate tournaments. I happen to be a national level karate gold medalist. And like Samad said, I was on Pitch Please, which is the a cappella group of PS and part of Music Club. And I've also done a small internship with CIE on one of their projects. I had collaborated with them on one of their projects, and that was also a good learning experience because we got to work alongside other people from other departments like EC and CS and everything, and putting together a product all on our own and helping out with that was pretty interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much about me.
That was great. Thanks, Prakriti. Now, Ashwin will introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashwin, again 4th year design student. I am studying currently interaction design, so more of the UI UX side. I am currently working in Siemens as well, in Siemens. And I have worked before as well in this company for around 4 months. As for the placement side, I didn't get this through placements. I got this through more of networking, similarly to Summer. Again, we'll touch on that later on. And as for previous experiences, I have also worked under CIA with Prakriti. You usually did more of the illustration and the UX part of it. Again, it was a pretty nice experience to work with other people in their own fields, see how multiple fields can play along with each other. You did learn a lot. It was interesting to say the least. There have been multiple problems as well along that, but yeah, that's what everything. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Thanks, Ashwin. Now we have Ria.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Ria. I'm again in my 8th semester right now. I'm working in a company called Lumber 5. It's basically a construction building application. It's an application for construction workers in the US. So it has inbuilt time trackers, and it has a payroll management system and all of that. I'm not too sure on what exactly I'd be working on because I haven't really started there, but I have been hired as a user interface designer. One of the tasks that they told us to do to get into this was to build a dashboard. So that's something that I've been working in my previous companies on as well. So I'd worked at this company called Vita Wealth, which is also a fintech application. So right from then, I started getting into a little bit of dashboards and understanding how visual representations of data could be explored, and that's where I really got into it. As for how I got this was through college itself, and my previous experiences. So I've worked with, as I said, Vita Wealth. Other than that, I worked on a YC Combinator startup with Samarth in this call only. So it was called Craze. And then I've done a few freelancing jobs just for like graphic design and things like that. My college experience, I worked a lot with college clubs, and I was part of Atma Trisha, I was part of like under 25, ESL, all of that. So I did a little bit of work for all of these things as well. So yeah, I've always been interested in the creative aspect of things. So I've dabbled a little bit with even like jewelry making, sculpting. That's always been something I've been crazy about. Stop motion, claymation. That's been really something interesting to me. But that's the beauty of design, right? You can you can dabble into a lot of things once you get into the professional world. So yeah, other than that, I'm into like, I also play the guitar. So I've been in some bands and pests as well. And that's about it, I think, from my end. We'll get into like the details later, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Ria. Last up, we have Pranav.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pranav. I'm also in my final year industrial design, and I'm currently interning at a company called F8 Products as an industrial designer. And this is my third internship. My first internship was a furniture design internship. The second one was at the TCS IISc Innovation Lab, where we were supposed to develop a hearing device that also acted like an EEG device. And now the third internship, it's basically, it deals with end-to-end product design and development, and also manufacturing the products. I've also taken up, I finished a one-year course in product management, and I want to get into management for my master's. And I also sing and play the piano. Yeah, so that's it.
So yeah, all our panelists have introduced themselves. We'll be moving on to the second phase of our placement tales. That will be, we'll be presenting them with the queries which the students have proposed themselves one by one, and our panelists will answer the queries. So yeah, our first query is to Prarthana. Can you switch from doing product design to doing an internship or a job in UI UX?
Most definitely you can. That's kind of what I did as well. I was, like I said, when I did my first internship with IISc, I was really intrigued with how there was such a balance between both product design and UX in that particular project. And the shift is honestly, from like a technical point of view, you do have to work. You will have to learn certain skills because the course doesn't, in product design, you don't learn app design or web design or those kind of things. So you will, and coding especially. So those kind of things you have to build on that on your own. There are a lot of courses that are available. So make sure you do those. Certainly very helpful. But on a very basic level, UX is everywhere. It can be product design, you can have communication design, and obviously interaction design. It's everything that you design has to be appealing to the user. If you understand that, you will be able to translate that in any of the projects. So I would say that there are both pros and cons that with what I faced. So being a product design student did give me, there were a couple of plus points, is that you're able to look at your design solutions very holistically. A lot of your projects can have UX elements that are blended in with the physical interactions of your product. And that's really important. You can have a toy design, but there's also some kind of an application that's supporting it. So, those kind of things. So that way it really strengthens your projects. You should ideally you should learn skills for both UI and UX, especially considering how so much of the world, especially the corporate part of things, it's moving into the digital sector, so you should really upgrade your skills that way, and it's very doable. And like I said, the only drawback is you have to put in additional effort. You will have to take up a couple of courses. I was recommended the Google UI UX course on Coursera that's available. There are a lot of YouTube courses that teach you Figma, the HTML, basic CSS, those kind of things. So definitely do that, and it's very, very doable. the shift is, it's not that hard. It just requires a little bit of an extra work. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sure. Thank you. My next question is to Samarth. When and how does a design student start working on their portfolio? Like how many projects should they add, and how detailed should it be?
Yeah, I think rather than when, I think how becomes very important, because the best time to start working in a portfolio was yesterday or like a year ago, and the next best time is right now. How you do it, I think, is really important, because as a designer, you still need to tell them a story. You can't just put like a chunk of data there and expect them to understand. That is how you're going to be doing all of your other work in the future itself, right? So your work ethic and all of that needs to come together and get showcased on the portfolio itself. So the number of projects, I think, can range from 2 to 3. It's really depends on how your projects are spread out. Some of them could be case studies, some of them could be quick iterations, some of them could be something that you don't need to explain a lot. You only need to show the result of it. So the length of your projects and the number of your projects really depends on their complexity. But 2 to 3, I think, is a golden number. Or you can just extend it to 4. But like keeping it short and to the point, and building a narrative of how you worked through all of these is the most important thing. And I know that this answer might be very abstract for some people. Like I'm not throwing numbers at you that you need to spend these many number of hours and all that. But even though there's like a little bit of perfection kind of a thing in the game, it's always better to get it done and like keeping it short and concise. That's why you can't spend a lot of time or like very little either. I think spending like 1 to 2 months would be great. If you're starting out right now and you don't have like the polished version of a couple of projects, because that is the case. Sometimes you'll be working on a project you'll really want to include in your portfolio and all that. So plan it out according to how your work is going. Put out a narrative for yourself, and keep it short and concise. It's pretty much it.
That's great. Next, can we have Prakriti answering the question? Which of these should be prioritized as CGPA or portfolio? Like how much weightage does the CGPA carry and its relevance to the job?
Yeah, so Pratna had already mentioned this, like that for her job, it was relevant. I would say for mine, it wasn't that relevant because initially we were asked for a resume and our portfolio. And again, the decisions made around the back end. So we didn't really know what were the, guidelines and such. But I would say for me, it didn't really matter. But definitely, you as a person should work hard to have a good CGPA, SGPA, do well in what you're doing, because in the end, that's what matters. And your portfolio is like you. It's a representation of what you are and who you are as a designer. So that's really important to kind of, and each portfolio changes for each job description. So that again, you have to keep in mind before applying to a job. So, if you're interested in UI UX, then you have portfolio specifically for UI UX. If you're a product designer, you have specifically for product design. So it's again different again, and it again shows who you are as a designer and who you are as that particular designer. So all these factors come into play, but portfolio is definitely, in my experience, portfolio is definitely more important than your CGPA or SGPA.
Thank you. And can we have Pranav answering? How exactly is it difficult to secure a CGPA of 7 above? And is it difficult to get placed with such a CGPA?
Yeah, so when it comes to placement, I'm pretty sure CGPA plays a role, because a lot of students from the same batch will be applying to this for the same roles, right? So there has to be one or the other way of initial scrutiny, at least, which will turn out to be the CGPA. And sometimes it will be even before they look at our portfolios. But what my view is that more than the CGPA, when you're applying elsewhere, when you're applying outside to any other companies, they don't really care about the CGPA, because as the designers, design itself is a very subjective uh, field, right? Like you can't uh, kind of decide how good a design is based on how what a person's CGPA is. So depending on what companies you're applying for, if you have the right skill sets and if you have the right portfolio for it, I don't think the CGPA matters. And honestly, in design, out of the 4 years, what I saw was CGPA was more important only, to secure the scholarship. That was like the only goal of CGPA. Other than that, I personally didn't find any other use of my CGPA except the fact that it just looks nice on my resume. uh, yeah.
I'd
Just
like
to
to just
add
add,
on to that,
yeah, go
sorry,
on.
I'll just finish. Yeah. It also matters for your college applications. So if you're applying abroad, they do look at your CGPA. So if you do have plans for masters, so you should cater to that aspect of things. Yeah, Ria, you
Yeah,
can
just
go.
to add on. So, I think mainly in placements, when you're applying, as Pranav said, the initial scrutiny is the CGPA, but it's also just a cutoff. So, just try to make it like, I don't want someone to be watching this and feel discouraged if their CGPA is looking a little low, because if you have it to above at least 8 to 9, you're good to go. So, like, or I don't know if it's 7.5 or above, but 8 to 9 is a good place to have. So it's just the initial cutoff that you'll have to just put yourself through. So
A
other
lot
than
of
that,
companies mention that as well. They do mention, in the application, you will have minimum 8, minimum
minimum, yeah,
7.5. So
that's
you
what
will have that, but it's good to have
it's
above
very
8.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a point to add on. I mean, I think it just shows how much or how dedicated you are to what you do. I think that's like, because you have a good CGPA, that means you're doing a good job at what you do. Again, but like Pranav said, it's very subjective. So what our teachers decide, how our projects are, maybe someone else may like it. So it kind of like very subjective. So yeah, that's it.
And one more thing is when it comes to CGPA, right? Honestly, oh, I forgot the point I was going to make. But oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Considering the current marking scheme in our college, right? Everyone, at least in the design department, has a CGPA of, like, at least most of us have a CGPA of above 8, which to the outside world is like what? Because it doesn't really work the same elsewhere, right? And here the marking system is honestly very questionable in our college, because right, like, they consider very specific uh, things that might not necessarily matter in the final result. But yeah, I mean, it's very subjective, because I've seen a lot of friends who study in other design schools who who can't even dream of getting a CGPA of what, 9.75, 9.8, and all that. We are like competing. Like, I have a CGPA of 9.1, and I'm assuming Prarthana said 9.5. Right, that's the range we're like competing in. I don't think that makes sense to the outside world necessarily.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say. The point one, point two, I don't think really plays a huge role, but a 9 or an 8 sounds good. So that's probably what you should
I
aim
think
for.
sometimes even we struggle with like, we want to get above 9.5 because that's our standard. Like getting 8 or 9 is not our standard. Getting above
Yeah.
9.5 semester is what our standard is. So if you don't match that, then that's like a loss for us. So like, I know I personally have struggled with that, and now my CGPA is at like 9.18. So I'm like, it reduced by 0.1 this semester. So it was kind of disappointing. But you do well from the beginning, your CGPA is going to be good. If you don't do well from the beginning, your CGPA is going to drop, and then to get it back up to where it is not very easy. So
Yeah, next question is to Ria. Could you share a few frequently asked questions in the interview and what we should be prepared for?
Yeah, sure. So, I think the one thing that every interviewer asks is, tell me about yourself. So a comprehensive view of what you think should be there. I think to the point, don't talk a lot about your maybe things that don't apply to what you're applying to, right? In that job, they want to know who you are as well. So maybe one or two concluding lines. But I've just seen that it's better if you're a little bit more concise in that point, because people tend to ramble a lot because it's an open-ended question, right? Second would be for our interviews mainly, I have seen that they go straight to the portfolio. Either they ask you something about your resume. They see, so one of my interviewers were like, so YC Combinator startup, which I worked with Samarth on. My interviewer really was interested in the jewelry shop that I had put up. So that was just a small little thing I had put in my portfolio at the end, which doesn't really matter to the role. But he thought that that required an entrepreneurship skill. And so he was interested in that. He was like, oh, that's kind of out of the box. And what did you do for that? And how did you put it up and everything, right? So that isn't UI related, but I was doing a UI job. So sometimes you could touch upon like small things that you have done outside of that role. And then they go into the portfolio. So just a detailed, I have gone through some interviews where they really question each and every move that you have done in your case studies. So going into like exactly why you picked a methodology, and then what maybe your result, they wouldn't really like go into as detailed, but sometimes they ask, why don't you add this into your result? And maybe you should, sometimes you just have to be very on spot, even if you hadn't thought of it at that time, right? I would say just train yourself to be very on spot, to be versatile to answering questions. And so that's about it. Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses also is another question that they ask. So I think most roles, they kind of want someone to be a little bit of a leader, so someone who takes initiative. So position yourself in that way is also something that I might encourage you all to do. So yeah.
Thanks for the answer, Ria. Next question is to Ashwin. Is it worth doing masters, and if yes, what streams?
I'd say it is. I'd say it really is worth doing your masters, not just in design, but just in general. Because whenever people are trying to hire you, regardless of your position, people want you to know as much knowledge as possible, right? As many skills as you have. For them, it's more of like a business decision if you think about it, because they want as much as possible in one single package. Plus, you also get to learn a lot more. And for what stream, that is heavily subjective. It depends on what you want, what your career path is. For example, like similar to Pratna and Pranav, I'm planning to do masters abroad for strategic design, or more into the management side, right? Because it helps to spread my path, essentially. It helps me increase my knowledge, what exactly I can do on the business side. Plus, it opens up multiple career choices. There's also the other way around, where you can go into something more specific into what you've already learned. For example, I've done UI UX. That is the most popular master's stream which I've heard of is Masters in HCI, Human Computer Interaction. Right? So once you do that, you can go further ahead into just the design part of it, right? So you'll be able to learn more specific scenarios, I guess you'll be able to tackle. And that will also open up for, at least in the corporate world, you'll be able to climb up the ladder much higher, much quicker when you have a master's degree. They will, they'll rather accept you with a master's degree rather than without it, because they know you have learned specific things of it. And I believe some companies like Apple, if you require to go at such a high role, you do require a master's degree as well. You can't go without a master's degree. So yeah, in short term, yes, it is very helpful, very, very helpful.
And we've seen that in internships. A lot of my friends who are working in in the bigger companies, you see that it matters where you do your master's from as well. A lot of us, we're already seeing it with just the bachelor courses, So the students, those of us who are doing from PES, we have a lower range in our salaries itself when it comes to the pay grade. And somebody from IIT is paid way more for the same job. So when you have that option to upgrade your place of study, your academic side of things, that way, masters is also a really good way to redeem yourself if you haven't had the opportunity to do that with your bachelor's. So that's something to consider as well, I would say.
I'd like to add on to that another thing. So, what multiple people have been doing is when they do BDes, right? They think of doing directly MDes. So MDes, majority of the people, if you see who have done MDes, they haven't done a bachelor in design to begin with, because the masters in design curriculum is, I would say, again, I'm not saying anything bad against people who have done MDes, but it's the exact same curriculum as BDes, just shortened up into a 2-year course. And you learn here and there a little bit more of the management, or rather the business part of it, as opposed to the BDes. So if you are going to select a master stream, make sure you go through not just the college is also pretty important, but the entire curriculum as well. If you are going to gain anything out of doing the masters, don't simply, like, okay, MDes, BDes, chalo, we'll do that. That won't help you much at all. And when it comes to masters, the country where you go also matters a lot. So design in India, at least, is a little bit still in the baby phase, or a teenage phase, I'd say. Right? It's still growing into being something big, maybe. But after AI came, maybe not. It's going to be slaughtered. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is you need to know where demand is there in order for you to go to. So if you're going to do masters, something like in the US or Australia, when it comes to design, yeah, that's a really good option. If you want to masters in India, I'd prefer, rather, you have to aim for the big leagues, NID, IIT. You'll require that to get yourself a secure job. I'd say without that, brutally honest, it's going to be extremely difficult, because if you have an MDes from, I don't know, Banchankari or something, it's not going to help anyone or anywhere, right? So do keep that in mind.
Thank you for the valuable insights. Now, my next question is to Samarth. What are the starting salaries or packages which a student can expect in design?
So yeah, obviously different positions have different salaries, to clear that out. An intern can go anywhere from 6 to 12 LPA, depending on how they negotiate, how their work is, and all of that. But I think the larger part of this is going to be how well you negotiate also. You can't just like lowball yourself, and you need to know the market. You need to know what you're good at, what you're bad at, and you need to know how you fit the company well, so that you can also give them a justification as to what you're expecting. But in the current job market, all of that makes sense. So a 6 to 12 LPA is a good starting range. And it's fine, because there's going to be other things, how much is your in hand, how much is CTC, that's going to vary a lot. So I can't give you like a clear cut figure that, okay, if you get a 1 crore package, that's a good starting thing or something like that. But yeah, to start out, that's a better thing that's a better range. And even while starting out, it's better to not be like completely money minded, I believe. You get to learn a lot more. And yeah, you get to make a lot more mistakes also. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Ria, how important are co-curriculars in the field of design?
In the field of design, I'm not too sure how directly it impacts, but I feel like in general. So when it comes to just starting out in design, maybe first or second year, you probably wouldn't have a lot of internship experiences, or you might, but if you don't, I think this is a really great alternative, right? You're working with backends, you're working with management, PR teams, everything that you would find in a normal company, but in a smaller scale and much more urgent. You need to be right, like the time deadlines here are crazy, right? So you will be prepared for anything, basically. So if you're working in a startup, or if you're working in a smaller company, that sometimes the deadlines might not be 1 or 2 weeks that you would need, but more to the moment, like as to what they need. And so I think that gives you a more worldly perspective. And also, I just think you'd pick up a lot of small skills that might not be tangible, but it would play an important role in just presenting yourself in the final, when you are giving interviews and all of that. I think it plays a role in confidence, and just having, picking up skills like speaking, presenting, all of that. I think all of this plays an indirect role in it, in presenting yourself. Also your resume, all of this kind of adds to it, right? So if you pick up design domain curricular, co-curricular, so that's what I did. I was heading the DSGNR club. So in my resume, that would play out to be, led a particular number of students in a design oriented club, right? So something that there also, that kind of plays directly, I feel. So it really matters on what is important to you. Do you really want to pick up something that directly impacts your resume, or you want to pick up intangible skills, which will also, I would say, directly impact, the way you present yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, to add to that, I think co-curriculars are very, very important. And I mean, I would highly recommend anybody who's younger and wants to do it. I highly recommend you guys go join a club, because having co-curriculars is just going to help you and nothing else. You're just going to learn all different parts of the club. So you're going to learn how quickly you can make decisions for you to reach your requirement early, and then it makes you sell things better to whoever wants to take up things. So you're quick and you function much better, and then you get to work with a bigger group of people with different skill sets. So you're together with them and you're heading for an event or anything, is where you learn a lot of skills, because a few of them have better leadership qualities than you. So you look at them and you feel like, dude, this is something I would want to take, or I would want to do myself. So having co-curriculars, I think, is very important. And like Ria was saying, adding it to your resume is huge. So yeah, when I went to give my interviews, the first thing is like, oh, you led a club. So I had the Kannada Kuta design. So they asked, oh, how is it working for a cause, or what exactly did you do? So they are interested in the tiniest of the tiniest things that come on your resume. So I think it will play a bigger role.
That was nice. And next up, we have a question. All of you are okay if you answer it. Could you brief us about the importance of a summer internship, if you did any, and in what way has it helped you to build your portfolio? Like, what are the challenges you faced while interning at that company?
I think a summer internship, I think at least once you need to pick up, or twice you get it as not compulsory, I think. Or no, one time is not compulsory and one time is compulsory, right? That's, correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So at least once, I definitely, like, you need to pick something up, or just try to create some sort of, if you're not doing freelancing work, then at least do club work. I feel like some experience is needed. And any experience, I mean, talking about experiences, I was working in a very small startup once. And I ended up doing the entire thing from ground up, right? And I did not gauge how much I'm taking upon myself. So sometimes I feel like, just for the sake of it, don't pick things just because you want to add that to your resume. See how you will be able to handle it, and how it'll go smoothly. So yeah, that's my take, I think.
Yeah, to add on to that, even I did a summer internship, and it was an edtech startup company. And they were in a very basic level. So when I joined as a graphic design intern, they didn't have an idea on what a graphic designer would do to their company. So I strongly suggest you all to do your back-end research before you pick up anything. And the kind of things I had to do was very new to me. They didn't exactly know what they wanted, and for me that was a little difficult. So I strongly suggest you do your homework before you get into any of the companies. And yeah, that's about it.
Also, one more thing, just in design in general, it's all self learned, right? All of us actually, whatever we're given, even in classrooms, the teachers don't want us to be spoon fed, which is a good thing in some sorts, but also makes you kind of lost when you're given a particular task outside of college. So, like internships help a lot to just understand the industry level standards, right? So creating component sets, all of that, that's like a lot. That's a very complicated structure that you wouldn't get to learn otherwise. So an internship would only add on.
Adding on to what Ria said, I faced that particularly in my first year. So I never had plans of doing design up until the very first COVID lockdown. So my exposure to that as a field, both with respect to something for my bachelor's and also as a career path, was something that I never explored. So you won't have prior knowledge when you join a course like this. There were a lot of people who knew what was going on, basic concepts. First year, this is what sketching is supposed to look like. So those kind of things, it might take you a little time to learn. And like Ria said, internships really, really help you with those kind of things. And nobody expects you to know anything at an internship. It's like a learning curve. It's not a job. So don't be afraid to apply to them. It might be a little intimidating for your very first one, but honestly, most of the places really help you learn more than the output that you have to give. So it's a very two-way thing. You don't have to worry about it being very much like a job. You will learn a lot. So yeah.
Just like sharing my experience from like Adobe, because it's like you're working in like an IT, it's like a very big company in the IT side, and it's like you're new to it and you don't know how the company functions or how the group functions. It's ACS is basically Adobe Customer Solutions, which focuses on Adobe's clients, so it's not product related. So now when we were working as interns, we weren't allowed to work on a lot of, we weren't allowed to go to the customer place and everything because of the customer didn't want new interns to be directly involved. So then we ended up doing a lot of, designing that our head designers asked us to do, and helping them out. And a lot of things that they asked us was initially to figure out what we were interested in, like our team, our mentors, and our manager, like to figure out what our particular interests were. And based on that, actually, our team, like they, listed out certain things that they wanted to teach us as well. So they took out time from their very busy schedules to teach us more things and how the industry works. And I think it's like it kind of shaped, like the understanding of how the IT industry even works. And we got to meet a lot of the leaders at Adobe. So it's like we got to interact with the VP herself, and it was very, amazing to like talk to them and understand how they grew, how they, understand how they kind of grew in their industry and how they shifted, how they took risks, and all of those things. So it's like that exposure at a very young age, like at the end of third year, it's like very it's a lot, but it's also very nice. And like I think a lot of us wanted to like talk about networking and like getting that connections on LinkedIn or just meeting people. Like sharing one of the instances was like me traveling back in the cab after office. So it was like at 8:39 every night, and every day there would be a new person. So, and they would be from a completely different team, from a different building, because Adobe has a lot of buildings. So it's like every time you get to talk to a different person, and those people were actually really nice. Like when you have a conversation with them and you're like, I'm an intern, I'm just, here, I'm just started off and stuff. And then they tell about themselves and what they do. And then a few of them even like wanted to add me on LinkedIn. And we learned a lot about from like their HR, when like the head, when she came and spoke to us, she was like, she got the job at Adobe through connections, and she reached out to someone like from 6 years back, and that's how she got it. So it's like very important because at this young age, if you make those really strong connections and you know a lot of important people, so it's very easy to get jobs in the future or referrals or things like that. So for internships as well, for summer internship or whatever internships you do throughout your college course, you get connections, you do networking, you're good with people, you make a lot of connections, and it's like it like sets you up for your future, like you're in good hands kind of thing. So that's a very important factor. Yeah.
Thank you for your inputs. Prakriti, can you answer this important question as well? How to deal with pressure of comparing yourself to your peers and placement pressure in general?
So for me, because it was, like initially started off, like I said, wine was a roller coaster. For me, the pressure initially was that, oh, I messed up in my quiz and probably won't get selected. And, you have that fear of, oh, and it was actually my first ever like proper internship from college. And it was like, oh, I messed up. And then, like later on, like, I feel like, if one door closes, another door opens. So don't put that pressure on yourself, because I see a lot of people right now in like the seventh, eighth, not only from PS, like anywhere, like, like a lot of my friends actually are like going through this really hard thing of getting rejected from places, and that kind of puts a lot of pressure on a person. Getting rejected, I felt that for a while. Like, I'm telling from my personal experience, getting rejected by a company is not nice. Like, I know that because you have like worked there, and it's like, if they say no, sorry, we don't want to take you on for full time, that's like a kind of like a slap in the face. But I would say, if one door closes, another door probably opens somewhere else. So don't be disheartened by it. It's always a good thing. And I've seen a lot of people do this mistake. For your package, you don't apply to a lot of internships because of the package. Your package is low, so like you basically just shut that door. Like, I don't want to even go there. But that's not how it's going to work. I mean, if you don't even open a door and see what's behind it, you don't know what is there. So like, never do that. Like, of course, if you don't want to take it on later, don't take it on later, but apply for everything. You never know what strikes when, and when, like you get lucky or whatever. So it's really important, like, not to fall into that hole that, like, oh, I've been rejected, I'm not getting, like, affecting yourself mentally. That's not healthy. Everything, like, just believe in yourself that everything you've done the work. Of course, do the work. Don't, because if you fall into this mental spiral, then you're not going to do the work, and that's going to affect you more. So, just for that sake, just do the work, and the work will pay off at some point in time, is what I would say. Yeah.
And when it comes to comparing your work with others' work, right? Even in your batch, or let it be in the existing industry, it's more like, rather than you telling yourself that, oh, maybe I'm not as good for me to be in that role, it's a good opportunity for you to learn something from something that you yourself feel is better than yours. So like, maybe even in an industrial design, from an industrial design point of view, right? When I look at a lot of portfolios, I look at how I can improve my portfolio, how I can improve the structure so that I can get to where they are, rather than putting myself down over things which I can improve, right? And the same thing goes with our batchmates as well. Like, a lot of people will be naturally good at or better than us at a lot of things. So yeah, that's just the I think it's better for us to just look at it as an opportunity to learn and improve from it, than create an unnecessary friction there between you and the person, and again ends up screwing up your portfolio as well, which is not good. So
Yeah, and to add on to that, yeah, I definitely learn from your peers, see what they're doing, see what they're good at, and instead of just comparing, I believe, if I'm pretty sure your peers are open-minded, and they'd let you know, how to get through, a difficult time, or how to get something done. So definitely have that strong network with your peers itself, instead of going into comparison and going into deep rabbit hole of that. Usually the community helps you, either getting a job, or improving on a skill that you want to. It does, and that's how it has been for me. I'm speaking through personal experience. Most of the job openings that I've had, I've gotten through friends, because we were always helping each other get better at things. So yeah, instead of falling into a comparative, fall into a collaborative environment, and that will really work out for you.
Yeah. specifically in the design community, right? Because it's a very new community. So every win is a win for all of us, I feel like. Because when we see, oh, someone's gotten a really big package, then we're like, that is possible. That's possible for us too. So, it just makes us feel very inspired. At least for what I've seen, I feel like everyone's just kind of inspired by that. And it's a very, as Samar said, it's a very everyone learns from each other, especially after a point. When you're in just your first, second years, you're kind of uncomfortable to ask, and it can be a weird environment. But after that, everyone gets this maturity level that we're all here, we're all learning together. So it's always been like a learning curve together as a whole, I feel. But yeah. And as Prakriti was saying also, just the whole thing of putting in your work without seeing exactly the material benefits of what you're doing. So that work will pay off. That is 100% something that I believe in too. Something that's, you might get rejected, you might not, you might be like, I'm doing so much, but it's amounting to nothing. But it will amount to something one way or another. So yeah.
A lot of your initial internships might be unpaid, but honestly, that's something that you should go with the flow, because you're still a student, you have lots to learn, you have a lot of people to meet. Like Prakriti said, the kind of people you meet really shapes how you come out as a working professional later. They have years of experience on you, so go for the experience. Really don't hold back because they're not paying you a salary, or they just want work from you and you're not getting it. That's a huge, you can feel bad about it, and it's valid, but really go for the experience. When I did the internship with IISc the very first time, there are a lot of people who visit the lab, to view PhD projects and things like that. And we had someone come in from IIT Kharagpur. What happened was, I just had a conversation with my professor the previous day, and he was talking about some freelance possibilities that I could explore with the companies that are based in IISc, a lot of the startups. And when this IIT Kharagpur person came in, he had a startup himself. So he needed a lot of graphic design work to be done. Having those conversations with your superiors, letting them know if you need help, or need their connections to further your career ambitions, is also something very important. You should find people that you trust in a workplace. Obviously, there are a lot of things, a lot of office politics and those kind of things, but you can definitely find somebody to confide in and also help you move ahead. So do that. And through him, I did get an opportunity to work for that particular IIT startup, and some freelance work was done. So yeah, like I said, you should find someone to mentor you, guide you, and take away good things from that experience.
So sorry, there was a network glitch on my side. Next question is to Ashwin. What are your suggestions on portfolio making, and how do I know if my portfolio has every element which is required?
Okay, so when it comes to portfolio making, there's no single portfolio. I think Samarth mentioned this before, right? Yeah. So there's no one portfolio which has everything in it. That doesn't exist. There's no perfect portfolio there, because it's a subjective thing. One person will like it, the other person will absolutely hate it. But that's how it is. So I'd suggest having two portfolios at least. One being a website portfolio, because that's what it's easier for whoever the recruiter is to see through it. Plus, you have a little bit more freedom to make it a little bit more unique, and unique is something people like a lot, right? And the other one is a PDF portfolio. At least when it comes to like corporate companies or any companies which are trying to recruit, not recruit, trying to ask for like online, it is better to give a PDF. So, in some cases where they can just see through it quickly, glance through it quickly, and they'll be able to understand what you have in your inventory, right? And how do you know if your portfolio has every element required? There are multiple elements. The best thing you can do is start off with, there are multiple videos on YouTube, but I'd say in general, have essentially a little introduction of yourself. Have like 2 to 3 projects. It can be case studies. It can be just a showcase of your work, regardless of whatever your product, UI, UX communication, whatever, right? And get it critiqued. Going back to the peers one, the peers question, you can get it critiqued by your peers as well. But the best way to get critiqued is someone in the industry, right? Because they'll know exactly what's wrong, what's right, and they'll be able to essentially add in or remove items that are of use into your portfolio. And another thing, this is a bit more on the complicated side, I'd say rather, where you can make specific portfolios depending on what job you're going to be aiming for, right? So it can be even company wise. For example, like I had tried asking for in Mercedes-Benz, and I have like 2 to 3 projects which I have done regarding automobiles. So I put these 3 into a certain portfolio and I gave that. Let's say if I'm going for something a little bit more on the IT side, then I'll show more of my UI UX skills and apps and stuff like that into the portfolio and show it like that. Similarly, you can essentially customize that specifically for the job. It's similar to the cover letter kind of thing, where you're going to put a cover letter specifically for that job. You can do portfolios for that job as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Ashwin. As a follow-up question to this, Ria, yeah, I think you can answer this one. What requirements should one meet while setting for interviews? Like, how important is my resume as compared to my portfolio?
I think your resume, so at least from what I've seen, a lot of people first take in your resume before they look at your portfolio, right? Especially hiring managers, they don't have a lot of time, and portfolios require time to even understand the projects and everything. So a resume is a snapshot of you and what you have done, right? So it is a very important thing, I think. And then obviously your portfolio has to be of quality and matching to your resume when they go in depth later. Sanjana, can you just repeat the first half of the question? I didn't really get it. Hello, Sanjana?
Yeah. What requirements should I meet as a candidate sitting for interviews? Like in terms of skills.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So I think a pretty standard way of putting across your resume would be what experience you've had before. Some people even put like live projects or even your classroom projects that have probably had some impact or you're proud of. You would put a little snapshot of that for experience. Then obviously this is where your co-curricular activities would come in, maybe if you want to put that in, some experience you've done here and there, your strengths and weaknesses, whatever skills you have. So specifically like software skills, that is important because that is what the recruiter is looking for, right? So Figma, Adobe XD, whatever all rounded, you'd have to put a snapshot of that too. And then I've seen sometimes people put a little line about themselves, like what exactly in the design world they're interested in, and all of that. So that I think encompasses the entire resume wholly. And I don't think you really need to go into a lot of like other details like hobbies and things like that. And yeah, your language skills also. So specifically just those things, I think you'd be qualified to put into your resume. Yeah.
Nice. Pratna, the next question. How
Yep.
do placements work in design? Can you rely on college or should you look for outside sources in networking? And from when should you start all
Um,
this process?
Definitely look for both. Definitely rely more on your networking. And with regards to how early to start, honestly, you can start building from the time you start your initial internships, the ones that are not compulsory. Make sure you speak to people who are mentoring you or whom you work under, see if there are opportunities for you then and there, to merge into the company, those kind of opportunities. And with regards to placements in college, ours was a particularly sad experience because of the recession and how terrible the market is. We had little to none come in. After Accenture, and I think even Lumberfy, I'm not sure, a lot of the companies didn't follow through. We were given just an update saying, no, this has been postponed indefinitely. Dell happened to do that. So a lot of the opportunities that came through college this time didn't fully fall through. That had more to do with the market. And not to snub the department, the placement cell in PES, but they don't really look at design as a course that requires the same attention that, let's say, computer science does. With regards to how they release information, of whatever company comes through, or even if you do go approach them, they're not always uh, open to helping you, but that's okay. It was manageable for us. We still don't have an offer letter from Accenture officially, but we have been told that it will be, coming in July. So that way you will encounter a lot of problems because of management in through college. So really, I would say rely on your own networking. Look for options outside as well. Do not be disheartened with PS. It might come through. It did come through for a few of us, but I would say networking is really important.
But to add to that, like for future batches and everything, I think they are trying something now. They wanted to make a like a brochure or something to showcase all our work, and they're trying to do something and trying to
Yes.
put our projects out there, put all our what people have done throughout the year to get companies, because we know that at this college we do get good companies, and but they're all focused on the engineering side of it and other things. But like for design, because it's fairly new as well, feel like our batch still had like Adobe came for our juniors as well for summer internship.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't think any of them got because of the recession. But like companies are kind of noticing, and they're coming to our college for placements. But yeah, the college also is trying to do their part by making the brochure and putting our name out there and stuff. So
You can do a lot on your own as well. This time, I don't think this was done with the previous batches. So what they did was, what a couple of our professors suggested was have coordinators, two coordinators from each stream. They did gather their own, sources of wherever they were finding opportunities for design students, and all of that was shared with the other students. So opportunities really that way. I think the students managed it really well, and your professors are most definitely supportive. There are a lot of opportunities that come from them as well. A lot of them have come from corporate sectors before they were your professors, so they do have contacts. A couple of them did suggest companies through their contacts, and I'm not sure if anybody got in, but the opportunities do come in that way. So yeah, you will be able to manage.
Like to
yeah,
add on
and
to
just
that.
Yeah.
I go.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I was just
Yeah.
saying it's going to get better. Don't be disheartened by how the
Yeah,
situation is. That's all.
this is the market right now. It's
Yeah.
not like if there's a crash, there's always an upside. Not to worry, right? And another thing, when it comes to like networking, I'd say keep networking as your main way of getting a job, I'd say, and keep the placements as kind of like a safety net, right? Because that's going to happen regardless of what college. It may be as shit as us, or maybe even better. Who knows? But there will still be that safety net. So better thing is to do a little bit of networking and find out if there are better jobs. Because another advantage is that job which you will be able to find out through networking, others will not be able to get that. Right. So it's a little bit more on the unique side, and you'll be able to find that if you're lucky, you'll be able to find something which is much better than what others will be able to get. Right. So don't go finding for just a regular old job. You can find for something a little bit more uh, higher rated, I guess you can say, through networking. Because when it comes to the placement cells, people usually are going to go for companies which do hire in mass. So you're going to get a job that everyone else has. You'll be networking with the exact same people. You begin through networking and get through that. It just spreads from there. It'll help you a lot more in the future as well, especially if you're trying to climb up that job ladder wherever you are. So yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Adding
I
to,
think you,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I think you can just, it's a very short thing, but basically, I think you can also get a very niche if you're particularly interested in something. The college probably wouldn't be offering that. So even if you don't have a very large network, just keep an eye out, like LinkedIn. I don't know about Internshala if that really helps, but there are a lot of platforms that actually turn into real-time opportunities. So just keeping an eye out on all of that, I think I've heard a lot of people who have gotten through. So yeah, that's about it. I think because placements and everything that's related to college and mass recruiting, or even just like normal, like one or two candidates, sometimes it's very like unknown reasons. You would probably wouldn't know how you're filtered out, how there's a lot of chance also attached to that. So you just having your own ways of making your career path, I think, is better. Yeah. Prakriti.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, one more thing when it comes to college placements, it's like, yeah, you do get a job, but then what they do is like kind of block you out from getting any other job. So, if you're going to get a better opportunity outside, you never know. So that way, I mean, of course, they're going to help you get that job, but then after that, you are not allowed to take any more placements, or you're not allowed to go ahead. Like it isn't appreciated, because of course if you reject a company that comes to your college and recruits you, and then you're like, sorry, no. And that's kind of taking away opportunity from someone else that could have gotten. So all of those complications are there. But I would say, like, personally, of course, look for something that's really at the top, like, or look for it outside, look for it in campus recruitment, but like always aim for a good placement. Because I mean, it doesn't really matter, you'll obviously climb up in your career, but obviously it doesn't it makes a lot of difference if you get a jump initially itself out of college. So it's never a bad thing. So that's one thing I would like to say. Yeah.
I think, yeah, we have just last couple of queries left, and I think Smriti can take this. Are there any courses I can do to improve my portfolio for better placements?
To answer that, when I give my interviews, the first question they asked is, now that AI is coming, what are you going to do about coming here? Why should we even hire you? So if you have to answer these kind of questions, I think you need to have different kinds of skill sets that you do outside your given course. So when they asked me that question, my answer was, I have learned prompt engineering and I have done courses on that, and so I know fully how I can take up AI and put it to its full use and use it for my job. So uh, if I had to give that answer, I obviously had to learn a lot of other skills apart from this. And I think in college they're just going to teach you the very basics or ABCs of the subject, and your interests and your certificate courses, they make a lot of difference for your job or your interviews, anything like that.
Thank you, Smriti. Pranav, would you like to take up the next question?
Sure.
What should your portfolio look like, and what are the expectations?
Okay. The portfolio, when it comes to, again, it depends on what kind of companies you're applying to also. Because I mean, when you're looking for proper design roles, and I'm not talking about design research or design maybe strategy or whatever. I'm talking proper design where you're directly involved in developing a product. Because those were the companies which I applied to, and one common pattern which I saw was that they will require, as Samad said, they will require a proper storytelling from you. Like they will ask, they'll ask you for a proper reasoning for each and everything or each and every step you have taken, and that is very important because anything without a purpose, which when you're doing it, you're technically wasting the resources of the company, right? So they will want to know if you're doing everything you're doing for a reason. That is one thing. So reason is one thing. The second one is a good structure for your portfolio, like how you're going through your projects, like maybe focusing more on your strengths. For example, my strengths I would say is 3D modeling, and when it comes to product design, I make sure that my portfolio kind of uh, highlights the fact that I do 3D modeling a lot, and I give more importance to that than, of course you should be showing the entire process, as I said, but when it comes to giving emphasis on specific parts of your portfolio, it is better for you to focus on your strengths and highlight those, so that it's evident what your strengths are just by looking at your portfolio. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. Yeah, again, storytelling and the process, basically. Process is very important because if you've gone from idea A to idea B, you should be able to explain why you've done that, and you should be able to know what was wrong with idea A and why you went to idea B, and you can't just be like, oh, it just looks better. And I'm talking only about product design. And in product design, very specifically, they look for prototypes. They look for physical prototypes, and they look for real life user testing. So that is one thing which they really want you to focus on in your portfolio, because again, your product shouldn't just be like a fantasy or like an imaginary thing, right? Like it should be practical, it should be manufacturable, it should be able to function how you want it to in real life. So for you to kind of develop such a product, you should have a very good idea of how you're getting to the final result, than just showing the final result and making it look cool. Which also, again, I got a change in my own portfolio because I didn't have time during the whole placement thing, so I had to do something very quickly. But yes, that's one thing which in general designers should kind of focus on.
Okay, so if I have to add to that, during my interviews or when people looked at my portfolios, they go back to your actual basics. So make sure everything you put inside your portfolio has a lot to be said and asked about. So when I showcased one of my work, they directly went, so what are the design principles that you've used inside your subject? So these are the kind of questions that they're going to ask about your portfolio. So make sure you're aware of what you're putting in and what you've not. And they don't really look at the research you've done. So I think condensing it or putting into very tiny briefs is going to help you a lot more than showing up the whole process on, I did this, I went there, I did that. So I think you can condense it and put it in a short form, because I don't think they're going to give a lot of time for you to come look at things. So make them grab your attention and then just change the work. So that's what I wanted to add.
That's it, guys. You answered all the queries. Now, if you have anything to give your personal experiences or any inputs to your juniors, you're most welcome.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, we've covered quite a bit.
One thing I would like to add is when you take communication, interaction, and product into the picture, usually how it works is the number of jobs product designers get is slightly lesser than what interaction designers or communication designers get, because not every company would, would want to hire that many people, and hiring works a lot differently in when you compare engineering and design. For example, like Tata Elxsi itself, the number of engineers they have, when you compare it to the number of designers, is like the proportion is very off. So again, product designers are usually kind of always facing this one issue where they're not getting jobs and everything. But again, as product designers, I think we should make use of the skills we have than to just call ourselves product designers and slightly try and branch out. So like, for example, as a product designer, maybe if my strengths are sketching, I can also make use of that in a slightly different field. So yeah, just don't be disheartened if you don't get it in exactly what you want. Uh, Again, you can make use of your skill sets in multiple ways.
Yeah, a lot of the startups that came into, who offered a couple of students jobs, they had a lot of product-based startups come in this time. A few, all of these medical equipment companies are something that you should look out for. They do require 3D modeling. So it's important because, like Pranav was saying, it's very niche for us to find a company to that caters to your product design skills, somewhere where you can shine with all of the things that you've learned in university and on your own. So there are companies to do that. And furniture design also, I think one or two came in. I'm not sure if anybody worked there, but there are opportunities. So keep an eye out for roles like that, I would say.
Yeah. Also, we're taught in like college to abide by a very particular guideline or a very particular process while doing our projects, right? But when we go into the industry or we're working for someone, we realize that they require something from us, and that's why they've got us on board. Even though it's very fun to go into like this thing, just like go on with our research and the initial part of design before the result. I think sometimes you got to break that mold that is created in college, because I took time to break that, and I realized that it doesn't matter to that person who's hired me. It doesn't matter what I've learned in college, and if I'm going very like goody two shoes according to what we've been taught. And they want a more smart or like more like to the point what they want. Mold yourself and be versatile is something that I think should be inculcated. Also, just be excited for work, because there was a short time that I worked, I think, in a UX role in a company called Wild, and I just got so excited when they gave me these. I was into like I really thought as an intern you don't get UX roles, right? Usually it's UI, and you usually start off with the more tangible things, and then you go into user research and all of that. But research is something that I'm also quite excited about, because you get to speak all the time to users and get insights and all of that. So they actually gave me these like recorders and mics and everything to do those interviews, and that was very very exciting to me. So these little things that you get in like the actual industry could really be exciting. So just be excited for what you have coming up, I think, to the juniors. Yeah, that's
But
Yeah,
at the same time, sorry, Smriti, go ahead.
I think being an intern is the best thing actually, because they're not going to judge you at any point. Like, I mean, at any point in time, you can use the intern card on them, telling, "Dude, I'm
yeah.
just an intern. I think I still need to learn." So I think being an intern is very fun. So I highly suggest everybody to do a lot of internships as much as you can, and just enjoy and just widen all of your learning branches, and just go everywhere, learn a little bit of UI, UX, 3D modeling, everything. So it's just going to come handy at any point in time. So don't just stick to, let's say, me being a communication designer. If I just, stuck to graphic designing, I don't think that would help your career in any way. So a little bit of UX, and a little bit of 3D modeling or an animation, video editing, and I think those are all the skills that you need to add up.
Yeah, I was just saying that all of this said, always remember that you may not end up doing the job that you want to do when you're hired in a big company. It may probably be something else. So never like, keep in your mind, oh, I will be doing this particular job. No, tomorrow your manager may say, sorry, you may just have to be doing something else, probably just writing something, typing out something, or doing something that someone else will do, like the manual labor. Because you're an intern or a fresher, you'll be given the, more hands-on work, instead of going and actually doing the, like Ria was saying, the UX part of it. But yeah, like always remember, you may not end up doing the same exact thing that you think you will be doing when you're hired in a company.
Also, one pro tip while using LinkedIn, this is specifically for UI UX and product designers. I don't know why they're illiterate, but UI UX designers, when you're searching for stuff in LinkedIn, search for UI UX and product design or product intern. I don't know why they say that. And for product designers, again, the same thing, product and industrial designers. Again, I don't know how the switch happened, when it happened, why they let this, but do that. You'll find like twice or thrice the amount of internships in LinkedIn just because of that. So,
yeah, and never be overwhelmed by applying for anything on LinkedIn, because I feel like I come across that a lot. Like, I happened to apply to Riot Games, if you've heard of it, which was all the way in the US, and I still applied because see, one part of it is actually being able to go and like get it or like do it. The other part of it is just the happiness of probably being accepted. So like, don't stop yourself, and of course read. Like LinkedIn was like a lot of, LinkedIn is very, very, like everyone I've spoken to is like, I don't want to come on LinkedIn because it's very overwhelming. Honestly, I was the same way, but it's actually a very good platform to connect. And also remember that it's just a social platform. Technically, it's not something that your career will probably, like, it'll build, yeah, it'll help, but it's not like so it's so important, or like you can do without it. It's just an aid, it's a tool. Like, you don't have to be scared or very overwhelmed by the fact that there's something called LinkedIn. It really helps, and don't be scared to apply for jobs anywhere, like I said. So that's one thing that I come across a lot when speaking to people.
Anything more?
I think that's
Cool then. You people have contributed a lot. Your diverse experiences and valuable insights. They've added a lot to our placement tales today. Your journey will definitely inspire and be insightful to many juniors to come. That's it for placement tales, guys. Thank you so much, Ashwin, Pratna, Samath, Pranav, Prakriti, Rhea, and Smriti for catching up with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.